You might be underutilizing one of the most powerful tools that exists within your OnBase system, especially for your users. I know for a long time I was as well, and that is Unity Forms. So today, I'm gonna go through and share a couple of tips that I have to make your journey into developing Unity Forms a little bit easier. SnackBytes is brought to you by Datum Evolve. We're a Highland partner and reseller. If you've enjoyed our videos and want us to help you with our services, please reach out. So I know you've been asking for a really long time, and here are my tips on how I make developing Unity Forms a little bit more efficient.
We also need some way to make us look efficient, like we got all the answers.
So here's some of my best practices for how I develop Unity Forms. Here's my first tip. You can make your custom actions modular. So if you're gonna have the same steps, the same logic within multiple custom actions, what I do is I create one universal custom action and then call that custom action from other custom actions. And I know I've said custom actions a lot, and you're probably gonna hear me say it a lot more during this video, but let me show you what I mean. So within this Unity form, we know that we want to copy our personal information down to our billing address. This is very common that you see on websites for shipping. But we wanna do that within a button. But we also might wanna do it as the user is filling out fields or maybe another button. So instead of creating a button with all the actions of copying those fields over and then creating another button and another custom action to copy those fields over again.
Wow, that's a lot of work for third graders.
What I did here was I created a universal custom action. This custom action essentially copies over all the fields that then we can now leverage for our other buttons. Or let's say we throw it into a custom action after validation or a checkbox is checked. We can reuse it. So here I'm gonna add more field values so that we can see. I had only added one. So we want our field last name to be, and I'm gonna just put this in real quick, our keyword first name. Oh. And our last one, our zip code. And as you can see, if I had to create all of these actions within multiple custom actions, it'd be a little bit frustrating and time consuming. So, all right, I got our universal custom action. And now for our button, all we're doing is when that button is clicked, we are calling that universal custom action versus building in all those actions within each button. So let's test drive it so you can see what I'm talking about. I have a little bit of validation in here. Question, Kowski, email, great dog. I'm gonna use my AOL address. Does anyone still have an AOL address?
You've got mail.
All right, address. Maybe I won't put in my address just in case you don't like these videos and you're gonna show up at my house. Elms Street.
Welcome to Wonderland, Alice.
Plymouth, Michigan. Ooh, 48170. All right. And now we click copy, and there we have it. So that's my first tip. And just as a reminder, you can, so if I were to create another button, or let's say I have a checkbox to copy and a button, you just call that universal custom action within that button. So let's close that out. Ooh, here's another cool part of that. It gives you the ability then to have one custom action. Let's say you have a change that you have to make. Now you only have to make that change in the universal custom action versus going through all the other custom actions and having to make that change there. So that's another cool part of using universal custom actions. All right, my second tip, and this you might be thinking, all right, naming conventions, Christian, you're gonna go down this route again. It's really time consuming to go into all of my fields and name them. But my tip is to label your field names appropriately. So a lot of Unity forms, we use a mixture. We use the keywords that exist on the document type if your Unity form is matched to a document type. And we might also throw in other fields that all we're using it for is not to store the metadata, but just to have additional information on the Unity form. So I like to, if anything is a keyword that we brought in from the document, I like to prefix the ID with keyword, something that tells us that this is a keyword on the Unity form. And then any other fields that aren't going to be stored as keywords, I just prefix it with field. That way, when I'm going into and configuring the custom actions, and let's create one real quick just so you can see what I'm talking about. And we look at, let's evaluate an expression here, right? So we want to look at one field versus the other. So now in our dropdown, we can see at a high level what is a keyword and what is a field. Because if we go back and let's just create a field randomly and see what OnBase spits out. All right, so I'm just going to throw a text box on here, right? And if I go in, and now I'm trying to create logic based on that text box. Look what OnBase calls it. All right, we got to go down. Text box 44. That gives me absolutely no information about what that field is and what it does. And the benefit of this tip as well is that if you are ever going to use workflow with your Unity form, and I highly recommend that you do because that's where the power of OnBase comes in, is workflow, is that it becomes a lot easier to find it versus trying to go through in Workflow Studio and trying to find what text box 44 or conditional button 101 was. So it really does help you out downstream. It takes a little bit of time on the front end, but it will save you a lot of time on the back end. Oh, here's a bonus tip. I also like, as you've seen in my demo, I like to create headers for my section. So usually I like to group together our universal custom actions, buttons, validation, anything like, you know, your Unity form might get really big. And in this case, it helps you just to identify what each section does. And to do that, I create a new custom action. And the great thing that within the newer version of OnBase, I think 24 and beyond, you have the ability to disable the custom action. So we can call it keyword validations. So anything that is in below this section, we know is specifically logic that helps us with keyword validation. And because it requires that there has to be some sort of a condition or action, what I like to do is just, if the form is loading, this is disabled anyway, so it's not really gonna run, but it gives us a nice little pretty divider for all of our custom actions and our logic. If you're using a version that predates the disabling ability of your custom actions, then yeah, usually what I'll do is I'll set this action to if 1 equals 0. Then it will never evaluate. It's not really a heavy burden on your Unity form when the logic is executing. And then you still have those dividers for your custom actions. There you have it, just a couple of small tips that hopefully will make your journey into developing Unity forms a little bit easier, and your ability to then troubleshoot things down the road becomes simpler. And now it's time for us to go into our box of snacks. Let's see what we got today. All right, I'm gonna randomly grab one today. This one looks interesting. Swinkles. It is Salsagheti. So it's, oh boy, it looks like candy, and it might taste like salsa and spaghetti. So let's see. It's like what the kids have with their little gummy worms. Yeah, it definitely smells like salsa. All right, here we go. Bon appetit. Oh my God, that's disgusting. I don't know if I can eat that. Oh, it's activating the gag reflex, everyone. Whoa. All right. That's going to be the only take that I do of that, because that was not good. That was not good. Yeah, everybody. I'm going to go try to find a bucket and throw up in. Whew. That was bad. That was really bad.